Propel Fitness Water. With Gatorade electrolytes, zero sugar, and vitamins, Propel hydrates better than water to help you get the most out of your workout and get back to your best self. What propels you? Propel with Gatorade electrolytes.
Pros, find the right flooring for the job in Lowe's newly redesigned flooring showroom. Shop our expanded assortment of trusted brands and get up to 35% off style selections, Stainmaster, and Stainmaster Pet Protect Special Order Carpet. And while you're here, save $100 on a DeWalt 20-volt max 6-amp-hour 2-pack of batteries, now just $179. Get more of what you need faster and save more where it counts from the ground up. Our best lineup is here at Lowe's. Valid through 8/26 while supplies last. Selection varies by location.
This message is brought to you by Apple Card. Shave ice by the beach. A trip to the state fair. And a throwback flick at the local drive-in. They're more than just items to check off the summer bucket list. They're also opportunities to earn 2% daily cash back when you use your Apple Card with Apple Pay. Apply for Apple Card now and use in minutes with Apple Pay. Subject to credit approval. Apple Card is issued by Goldman Sachs Bank USA, Salt Lake City branch. Terms and more at applecard.com.
Coach Unplugged is brought to you by great people over at teachhoops.com for coaches who want to get better. From the Fifth Quarter Studios in Madison, Wisconsin, you're listening to Coach Unplugged. Here is your host, Steve Collins.
Hey everybody, happy Tuesday. Like I said yesterday, this is episode 533. We're going to have kind of a rewind. Today we're going to talk to Tim Rice about sports psychology. Tim's a great guy. Hoping to get into Ireland at some point if you listen to this, Tim. But anyway, I'm not even sure if he's there anymore. But anyway, before we jump into that rewind episode with Tim Rice, I'd like to give a big shout out to our two sponsors. First of all, teachhoops.com for coaches who want to get better. Not only does it allow us to keep the lights on here and us all of these great resources coming on a regular basis, it allows me to help coaches all around the country with resources, with coaching, with one-on-one calls, with office hours, with things that I think that I would have loved or still love as a coach, just that sense of community. And when you're struggling, it's always good to have someone to lean on, and teachhoops.com is there for you. Also, the great people over at Dr. Dish. I've said this 1,000 times. It is the number one shooting machine on the market. It will allow your team to be better shooters. If you want to get strong, you lift weights. If you want to learn to read faster, you read. If you want to become a better shooter, you have to get shots up. And Dr. Dish is the answer for you. Mention Coach Unplugged, and they'll give you $350 off your next purchase. All right, let's head off to the podcast.
Thanks so much for joining me today and taking time. I know how busy everyone is this time of year to listen to our podcasts. I have a great interview today with Tim Rice. A very unique journey is what I'm going to say for Tim. Tim has had, you're going to love kind of where he has started and where he has come from and the journey he has made. Before we get to that though, if you're looking, I know this time of year, especially me, always looking for a mentor, looking for new resources. And I have the perfect thing for you. It's teachhoops.com. It's a great place to find everything that you want. I know that we're starting a lot of new courses, anywhere from parents to how to deal with time, to get kids motivated, to work on offense and defenses. We have a list of 2 pages of courses that we're going to do and certifications. Go check it out. It's a 14-day free trial over at teachhoops.com. So go check that out. If you like the show, please go subscribe and like. Doesn't matter what you listen to, we would really appreciate that. And if you love these podcasts, if you want them to keep going, if you go over, maybe make a small donation, or become a member of teachhoops.com. Either way, www.patreon.com/Coach Unplugged, which is one word. Even a $1 a month, if I get a handful of people to do that, it will allow me to up our interviews and equipment and all that kind of stuff. All right, so here we go. So again, I do these. The kind of my the way I do these is I don't really like to talk to people before I do them because I find this very conversational. So what I would like you to do is kind of tell us a little bit about your coaching journey, kind of, just reading your resume this afternoon after school and, kind of your journey. You have a very unique journey. So if you could just share it with everybody that's listening.
Sure. Yeah. I got started right out of high school. I went to junior college at Enterprise State Junior College in Enterprise, Alabama in 1988. And, I was as a student in high school, I pretty much did not give a care about my academics, unfortunately, and ended up going to live with my dad in Enterprise, Alabama. And I took a bowling class in summer of 1988. The teacher was Sid Elliott, and Sid played at Tennessee and was the head basketball coach at Enterprise State. And I started talking to him and said, hey, I'm interested in being involved in the athletic program here. And he's like, well, we have a manager scholarship and, that we can offer someone. And of course, when I heard that, I jumped at the chance and, was involved for 2 years there at Enterprise, and then had the opportunity to go to Mobile College in Mobile, Alabama. It's now NAI. Well, it was NAI then, but now known as University of Mobile. And I was a student assistant for Dr. Bill Elder, who won nearly 600 games at Mobile and Montevallo and down in Alabama. And, NAI Hall of Fame guy. And, he's my mentor. I learned a ton from him. And, when I graduated in 1993, I kind of started the journey approach to coaching. I've, lived all over the United States since then. I was a high school coach at Faith Academy in Mobile, Alabama for a year, then went to Owatonna, Minnesota in 1994 and served for 2 years at a small Christian college called Pillsbury College up there. And, met my wife, Candy. She jumped on the journey with me. We ended up from there going to Kansas City, Missouri, Williamstown, Massachusetts, Grove City, Pennsylvania, Hiram, Ohio, Denver, Colorado, and now down in Texas. And also we were in Ireland for 8 months last year doing some consulting as well. So it's been quite the adventure. Fortunately for me, I went out and, did better as a student, at the graduate and doctoral levels. And so, I ended up earning a doctorate in sports management in 2005. And, I do consulting with my company, Basketball Mentoring. And then I also am a consultant with Basketball Ireland, where I basically am with the Elite Performance Committee within Basketball Ireland, and we are overall the governing of the national team program there that plays in the European Championships every year, the FIBA Championships. So had a lot of cool experiences, met a lot of great people for the last 25 years.
Well, and I look at this. First of all, I'll hire you tomorrow because I'm looking at this resume. Oh my goodness! But so you taught, you were a golf coach too. And what I have found among coaches is coaches and teachers are virtually the same thing, and that
Sure.
that most of us have done our fair share of more than just basketball at some point in our career. and I think it
Right.
makes us. I think it makes us. It makes us better coaches. I really do.
I would say, the one thing I would say about it, Steve, is that, I look at it like John Wooden looked at it. He never really considered himself a coach. He always thought of himself as a teacher. And when I get on the court, whether it's on the court, the course, or, wherever it might be, because I've coached cross country, I've coached soccer, I've, been a director of athletics, sports information director, whatever. But I've always felt like when you get into a practice setting, that's one of the greatest classrooms that a young person could go into, because you have an opportunity to impact tons of people for a lifetime. And it's an important classroom. And you in this business, and you know this very well, as do most of the people that are listening to this podcast, that, you have to wear a lot of hats.
Yeah.
And you have to be extremely versatile. Yeah.
You do, and you're kind of the first person to bring this up. So I want to come back and talk about the sports psychology part, because I'm married to a psychologist. Sure. So at some point I want to circle back to that. But kind of talking about the point you just talked about, as a high school coach, as someone that's played all those kind of things, obviously I have every hat. If you watch the Hurley thing on Showtime right now, he's he's doing the floors from the jersey. You do everything. You know, you're a dad, you're
Sure.
a psychologist, you're a doctor, you're a nurse, you're a mom, you're a dad, you're a little bit of everything. And I think that's such an important part of. I'm the same thing in my classroom. It's such an important part that I think people maybe don't see the importance of it. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, no, the thing that makes, I believe this, I was in the business world for a couple years after my head coaching role at Hiram College ended in 2006. And, the things that I learned as a coach for all those years really transferred extremely well into the world that I went into, which was in the sales world, the fundraising world. And, when you're able to juggle as much as you do, as a coach, I mean, if you don't, the best ones do, the folks that I think a lot of people look at coaches and they think, it's such a glamorous life and it's fun. Don't get me wrong.
Right. Yeah, it's fun.
But, it's fun. But at the same time, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of sacrifice. And, I think a lot of people think about when they're watching television and they see that coach, and I think every young coach had thought this, I know I did, walk across that court, to go shake the hand of the other opposing head coach and you're in your nice suit and tie and everybody's looking at you. And then you figure out that there are only a couple hundred people in the stands at stat. And you realize that it's not about that. So
it's not.
But yeah,
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was going to say, I think that, being, wearing a bunch of, we wear a bunch of hats, but it makes us better in the classroom. It makes us better examples for those people that we are teaching and coaching. And I think that's been the thing that has just been impressed upon me over the last 5 years, especially considering many of my athletes who I recruited as a college assistant and as a college head coach are now in their mid 30s and their parents and they're successful. And I'm like, man, when did I get old?
Right. But, no, I think Facebook should be banned for coaches because all of a sudden I see I think of the young men and the young women I coach and I just think of them at that age, like that snapshot. And then all of a sudden I see them doing things with their kids. And it's like, oh my gosh, where'd the time go? What I think people don't really understand too is they see the TV and they don't see that, I could make more working at a convenience store than I make coaching high school basketball. I don't do it for the money, and I definitely don't do it for the glamour. I think everybody has that, Calipari, Stevens, Coach K kind of thing that they see on TV. Well, those guys are in it for glamour. That's $1 billion industry. We're in it to just shape their lives. That's what I think. Sometimes people lose that perspective.
Well, and I'll just take it back. I'll take it back to 1994, and when I moved to Owatonna, Minnesota, the guy I came up to work with, a guy named Scott Williams, and Scott, assisted Eldon Miller in Iowa,
right?
And I met him when I was a student assistant at Mobile College. He was an assistant coach for us, and he gave me the opportunity to come up, and I'll never forget driving up with my buddy from Alabama. Of course, I'd never been that far north, and I didn't know what to expect and went up there and, he's like, hey, I got this great deal for you. I'll give you a meal card, an apartment, and I'll get you a job at the Nike factory store in Medford, Minnesota, which was like 10 minutes down the road. And I remember just going, well, where do I sign up? I don't necessarily, I think it's changed a lot over the last couple of years. I think people look at it for the glamour and they don't necessarily, the young folks don't understand that it takes a whole heck of a lot of work. And it takes sacrifice. And, I jumped in my car and drove, to Minnesota. I didn't get it paid for, I just went up there and I felt like it made a huge difference in my career. I wouldn't be where I'm at now if I had not made that jump. There's no way.
And I think this goes back to the business part that you were talking about. I think a lot of it is networking. You learn, I think of my journey. And before I moved down one seat, I always talk about moving down one seat on that bench. There's a big difference between moving one seat over. I had a lot. There's a big difference. But all assistants, the assistants never think there is, but there is. But I learned so much from all the great coaches that I was an assistant under. That I don't think people are patient enough, and they're not willing to I think I had 6 head coaches I was under, and I took a little bit of each of them, and that became and then I took a little bit, probably a bigger part of who I was, and then I put that all together, and that's who I became as a coach. You know,
Right.
I think people read books and they want to be the next Coach K, and there's only one Coach K. You know, you got to figure out what your secret sauce is.
Well, and to kind of jump on that a little bit, you know, if you look back to the late 90s when Pitino was at Kentucky and how Coach Pitino's teams played, you know, they're up and down the floor, they're pressing all over the place. And I just remember as a young coach at that time thinking, well, I want to be just like Coach Pitino. I want to do everything the way he does it. And you do really have to figure out who you are as a person. I think many coaches don't think about that enough. I think they try to be another version of someone else when the best version of, you know, they can be the best version of themselves and just be themselves. I think that's the one thing, if anyone's listening, you know, if you're a young coach, be true to yourself. I mean, honestly, that to me is the one thing, if I could go back and change anything, it would be that. Totally would.
And it would be because it's similar to my classroom. At some years we have to spend more time on one specific math topic than another. Like this year, I had a team this year that we ended up making it to the state semifinals, and I think we held teams in the 40s. Well, you know, 12 years ago when I had a future NBA guy, we were up and down the court like, you know, as many possible possessions as we could have. You got to kind of you have to adjust to your classroom, your players. Some years you can do once. You know, it's great to have a system, but you have to be able to tweak the system, at least in my opinion.
I agree with you. Yeah.
Let's go back to. I want you to talk about the importance of sports psychology, and kind of tell me what you've done, and the Ireland thing really intrigues me. What you were doing over in Ireland, and then we can talk about it from my standpoint.
Oh, absolutely. You know, I'm as I mentioned earlier, I have a doctorate, and I have it in sport management from the United States Sports Academy in Daphne, Alabama, and but I did my dissertation on a sports psychology topic, and I've been a practicing sport psychology professional. Heck, I think every coach kind of is somewhat, you know, but you know, you have to be here. I think that's what makes the great coaches the great ones. I mean, honestly. But
before you go too far, I think that's one of my strengths is I think I read 15 to 18-year-old boys really well. I mean, part of it is that psychology part of how do I convince them of things they don't want to be convinced of? How do I, you know, get them to play together rather than as individuals? All these things that are pulling them in different directions. You know, how is it? What kind of psychology can I use to be able to do that? But keep going. I'm sorry.
Well, no, that's fine. No, you know, for me, I've looked at what I do. I'm a lead faculty member for the University of the Rockies, which is an online school in Denver, Colorado, and I teach master's and doctoral students in sport and performance psychology. And a number of my students are actually working with NCAA teams, and you know, a couple major ones. One of my students, Stu Singer, works with University of Maryland women's team, Brenda Fries. And so the thing you have to do is it's kind of like being in sales. You know, you have to sell your players on, you know, kids these days. I mean, when we were growing up, kids haven't necessarily changed. I think the approach to meeting kids has changed within the coaches. Like we have to, you know, when we were growing up, if a coach said, you do this, then you just did it, you know, and that was it. Kids these days want to know why. Well, why are we doing this, coach? And so for me, when it comes down to teaching and utilizing sports psychology, I use the Socratic method within my teaching. And, you know, I ask a lot of questions of my players. I don't just say, okay, this is how it's going to be. I ask them, why do we chop our feet on a closeout? Like right now I'm working with a club team, the Texas Sharpshooters up in Austin, and there's a bunch of 7th graders, you know what I mean? And I'll ask them, why are we chopping our feet on a closeout? And I ask, and I point around and say, answer, give me something. And I have them talk, because the thing is, if they can understand it and they can verbalize it, then it's not an issue of me saying, well, because a lot of coaches and teachers for that matter don't really think about, what is in the mind of a kid or what's in the mind of a student, they think, well, I taught it already and they should get it. But ultimately, in order for them to, in order for us to really reach our goals as teachers and leaders, we have to know that they're doing it and they understand it. And the only way we can do that is to ask questions. So for me, I utilize a lot of visualization stuff. I use one of the things that's really a major issue with players is negative self-talk. And, I do this thing at the end of every practice.
Is true. Yeah.
You just had, that was where I was heading next.
I'm sorry.
At the end of practice. No, you're reading my mind here.
Yeah.
But we were like, at the end of every practice, I do this thing called pick-me-ups. It's a free throw shooting team thing that we finish every practice on. We put everybody at the baseline, and I'm the official. And they start from the left baseline and come out to the free throw line. I give them the ball when they say, "Thank you, sir." Because I want to get into the psychology of the referee too.
Right.
And I will give them the ball. If they make the free throw, they go to the end of the line on the right side of the baseline. And, or if they miss, then the next person has to pick them up. And I really talk about how important it is to really think about that, not only in a practice, but to transfer that in a game. And, if a kid misses a shot, my kids on the bench are like, "Pick us up, man, pick us up." That's a big thing. Another thing that I do in terms of visualization is I'll have 3 players in the free throw drill. I put 1 player under the basket, looking underneath the basket. I have a rebounder and I have a shooter. And every time, I got this from Steve Lamy at Grove City when I was his assistant out in Pennsylvania. And when the person shoots a free throw, it goes through that rim. And the person that's on the floor looks at that ball going through the rim and they visualize and see how small the ball is compared to the rim. And really get a feeling. And I'll go and help them up. I'll say, "What did you see?" And I just have them talk. And then we rotate. Person as a rebounder goes to the floor, person that shoots goes to the rebound, and so on.
I'm trying to visualize where everyone's lined up. So there's a person shooting a free throw. There's a person rebounding where the rebounder is off to the side.
That's correct. Yep.
And then the other person that's looking, are they directly under the basket? Are they laying down? Where are they?
They're laying down. They're laying down. Yep.
Okay. And they're
laying down, looking straight through the rim.
Okay.
Yep.
That's a great drill.
And it's simplistic, but the thing is, it gives. The thing is, so many, and this as well as anyone. You can almost fit. You can fit 3 women's balls in a rim.
Right.
2 men's. That ball is so small compared to the rim, but so many times kids think that ball's so big, and we have to do our part to do that. The other thing about free throws, and I'll jump off this, is when I have a kid go to the free throw line, I will say, "What are you thinking?" "Coach, I just don't want to miss." I said, "You can't think that way. You have to go up there with a routine. You have to go up there with a clearing the mechanism, going up there and truly believing that ball is going to go in." And really trying to get them to really focus on positive self-talk, talk that they're not, saying out loud, although there's some kids that might.
Right.
But, I think it's really important. Those are just some of the things that I do.
So let's go. There's just a couple of points. First of all, I talk about this. You're talking about the Socratic method. People used to go to schools, horse and buggies. We used to look up things on card catalogs. Things change,
right?
Right. We live in a Snapchat world right now. We do. I see it every day in my high school classroom. So that's where we have to help them get out of that quick thing and delve into it. And that's what's great about this kind of stuff that we do. That we do this with leadership and visualization. All this stuff is like verifying what we're doing is right. But what's crazy, I think, in our world is these kids are communicating. I'm in my office right now doing this. My daughter's in bed, but my son's in the other room. Guarantee he's on his phone. But if I put him on a basketball court, he'll say 3 words. You know what I mean? They communicate, but they don't really talk. I think that's the easiest way I've described it. They communicate, but they don't really talk to each other. And that communication is what all these things that you just described really help.
Yeah. Well, and we've all heard or seen the quote from Doc Rivers, "If you're not talking, you're not playing defense." And I'm a big defensive coach.
Right.
And I was fortunate to work with Harry Sheehy at Williams, who's now the director of athletics at Dartmouth, and, with Steve Lamy at Grove City, and arguably one of the best teachers I've ever been around, Steve Lamy.
He's at
And
Dartmouth. He's at Dartmouth now.
Harry Sheehy is. Yeah, he's the athletic director there. And
Wow.
he was an incredible coach at Williams. Yeah, I was his assistant in his final team, 99-2000.
Well, I'm sending one of my players at Dartmouth, and I'm a Dartmouth grad. So, wow, small world.
Oh, okay. Yeah, Harry's the AD there now. He's a Williams guy, and I was fortunate in 99-2000. I left a head coaching job at Calvary Bible College in Missouri and Kansas City, and went out and worked for free for him. Did my mentorship for my master's degree when I was 29 years old. I just turned 29.
And I tell all these young coaches, I said, if you want to go do something, go volunteer. Work at a camp. If you want to get your name out there, people just need to learn who you are. I mean, it's
well, and with regard to that, the marketing in networking, I talk with all my students. I teach for 6 universities online, and so I stay pretty busy. But most of my students don't understand that the only way you're going to really climb any ladders is to know the right people and to show them what you're worth and the work ethic you have. Now, for me, the whole Ireland thing, it came from working at a camp in Racket Lake, New York in 1991. I was there for 5 summers, and I met the basketball coach. There was a guy named Kieran Murphy, and we've developed a great relationship. He gave me my very first team in the summer of 1991. I coached the camp, the Racket Lake camp's under 12 team at a tournament, and I was 20 years old, just turned 21 that summer. And networking is incredibly important, and I think too many people think that we all just arrive. Well, let's be real. I mean, no one just arrives.
No. I mean, and everyone thinks that's the way it works, and it isn't. So let's go back to the sports psychology thing.
Sure.
What would you tell somebody that's listening to this, other than those? I mean, first of all, I'm going to do all of those this summer. I think those are great. But what would you tell, other than maybe going and getting their masters in it? What would you just tell a high school coach in Iowa? What could they do for their team as far as sports psychology goes?
Well, I think one of the greatest web pages you can go to is you can go find all sorts of sports psychology web pages out there, but the AASP web page, it's the Association of Applied Sports Psychologists. You just go find it online, go Google it, of course. There's a ton of great research.
I'll find it and put it in the footnotes for people that are listening. So
that's a great place to go.
Stop running is what I always tell people. I figure everyone's driving or running when they're listening to these things.
Sure. Absolutely.
Don't stop. Okay. Keep going.
I think going to find sources like that, that's a great source. Another person to look up is one of our students, Stu Singer, and I don't have his information right in front of me, but if you put in sports psychology, Stu, S-T-U, Singer, like S-I-N-G-E-R, you'll be able to find his webpage. He has a lot of great stuff that he does. And then the other thing too is, if you can find a sport psychology professional in your area, take advantage of using them. I think that I work what I'm doing is teaching and preparing people to go into that world, when they get their master's and their doctoral degrees. And so I think that's the other thing. Just like the one thing that a lot of coaches don't understand, and, we have so many, great resources. Like your videos are wonderful resources.
Right.
I watch them all the time, and I follow you on Twitter and like a lot of stuff, pretty much all the stuff you put up. But we have those sources in doing drills and everything else. But the thing is, there are sources out there for sports psychology too that are just chock full of information for the lay person like us, or most coaches that don't want to go and get a master's degree in it. But it doesn't have to be anything crazy, confusing. It's just, like the stuff I just shared. That's not confusing. That's just thinking through stuff. So that's what I would say. Yeah.
And I think this is, again, for the young coaches out there, even the veteran ones, I always think about all the different things I think of in terms of math, all the different things I need to be able to teach them. I need to be able to teach them the game of basketball, but I also need to teach them
Right.
how to handle adversity. I also need to teach them how to get stronger. I also need to teach them how to eat properly, because their bodies are engines, and when they go to McDonald's, they're not feeding. So it's like, I've dealt with people as far as nutrition and what we need to eat and when we need to eat it, and it's tournament time. And then, so this is really one piece that I think gets lost in that shuffle a little bit from a coaching standpoint.
Yeah.
From someone that's done it a long time.
It totally does.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it does. I mean, for me, I think one of the things with sports psychology services, or just doing anything, I mean, it's little things, but a lot of people don't even think about competitive anxiety. They don't think about sports self-confidence. They don't think about, panic. They don't think about any of those things, but kids go through it. Adults go through it. It's just the way it is. And it's how we handle it, Steve. I mean, that's it in a nutshell. How we handle it.
Yeah, and we all have it. All right, so let's go do some basketball specific questions here.
Sure.
All right. So if you could only do 3 things at a basketball practice, what would they be? Hey, Coach, hope you're enjoying the podcast. Make sure you subscribe and like. I would ask pretty please go and leave a review. We really do appreciate those. I guess I could go pretty please go join teachhoops.com. Become a better basketball coach. Resources, like I've said in previous ones, you go spend half $500 on a clinic, or you go buy a video or do something like that. You could go spend just $29.99 and have thousands of videos and thousands of things on there to make you a better basketball coach. So go over and check it out. 2 other things. If you want to check us, our YouTube channel, Teach Hoops, just type that in 2 separate words. And our Amazon link down below. Click on that. Anytime you purchase, if you bookmark it, you won't even notice it's there, but we get a small little commission, and it does help us pay for the hosting fees and stuff. All right, let's head back to the podcast.
Oh, well, first and foremost, I would do anything shell related defensively. One of the things that a lot of times people don't want to do that in a practice, but you can be extremely creative in how you do it, where you're doing more closing out, you're doing more work like that. So I would say the other thing would be really doing a kind of a shooting workout in every practice, where you go through different kinds of moves, finishing moves, whether it be Euro steps, pro hops, whatever it might be. And then the other thing, and this might sound crazy to some coaches, but hey, just get them up and down the floor and play a little bit. One thing about Ireland that was really just refreshing for me, and I'd be more than happy to share about my experience of it. It was crazy. It was great. But the thing is, I had an hour and 15 minutes to do a practice. And so I basically supersetted everything. And, but at the end of practice, those kids, they worked hard for 45 minutes. They want to get 20 minutes of scrimmage in.
Right.
I'm like, okay, I want them to love the game. So I think getting up and down the floor, for me, I've always been a drill kind of coach, and I still am. But the thing is, kids, they want to play, and that doesn't mean I'm going to go. Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I've been less. My practices, first of all, have gotten shorter as I've gotten older, because I think their attention spans, and I'd rather have a good hour 20 than a 2 hour that's horrible. And a lot of the stuff that we do is up and down the court. A lot of it's my whole Snapchat theory that things are quick, in and out, boom, boom, boom. I'm not going to spend 25 minutes on our motion offense if it isn't working. I'm going to spend 3, and then I'm going to go home and figure out what I can do the next day to make it better. Because talk about Ireland a little bit too when you come back here.
Yeah, absolutely. I was over there for 8 months, and Kieran Murphy, the guy I talked about earlier, who was a camp coach at Ragged Lake Boys Camp in New York State, he got in touch with my wife and I in fall of 2015, and he said, hey, my wife and I, by the way, we're full-time RVers, so we live a pretty cool life. So he's like, hey, he sends me a message on LinkedIn, when are you and Candy going to bring that RV to Ireland? And I'm like, well, hey, I'm not putting an RV on a boat or anything, but I said, what do you have in mind? And so, we had our 20th anniversary in the fall of 15 there, and I said, what do you have in mind? He's like, well, why don't you come over? I'll put you up for free we have housing in the school, and because it was a long time boarding school.
Right.
And it'll be free. We'll give you free meals, free housing. All you got to do is just do some coaching for us. I'm like, well, shoot, where can I sign up? So Kenny and I bought our tickets, went over and spent 5 weeks there, like a week in Villefranche-sur-Mer, which is outside of Nice, and then we took a one week cruise in Norway, and we spent some time in Great Britain and whatever. But we just fell in love with Ireland when we were over there, and I had a chance to interview for, I sent my resume in to Basketball Ireland at the time. They had a couple of coaching opportunities within their national.
Hey, everybody. I hope you're really enjoying the podcast today. I know I'm really enjoying talking to Tim Rice and learning about his journey. If you could do a couple things for me, if you're really liking these podcasts, if you could go over and subscribe and like, we would really appreciate that. And then if you could join one of our communities, this allows us to keep the podcasts and all the materials going out onto the web, either at www.teachhoops.com for coaches who want to get better, or over at www.patreon.com/Coach Unplugged. We would really appreciate it. And let's get back to Tim.
Within their national program from under 15 up to the senior men and women. And so I thought, well, why not? I'll just see what happens. And they got in touch with me and interviewed me. And of course I went home. Kenny and I both did.
Right.
And we just, before we left, we put in a proposal to come back and work for the rest of the school year at St. Mary's College, which is the Catholic school that Kieran was the principal at. And so they approved it on our flight home. And so we were back November 9th, and I was fortunate to go over there, and I work currently as a technical consultant for Basketball Ireland, which is the governing body, the FIBA governing body of basketball in Ireland. And then we worked at St. Mary's, and so I did practices 5 days a week with the St. Mary's kids, and then I would go and watch all of the teams, the national teams in Ireland, and kind of just see what they were doing. And they asked me to do a report, tell them what was good, what was bad, what needed to change, and it ended up being a 40-page report, and it's almost like doing a thesis for a master's degree. But it was, the thing about the sport over there, and I don't necessarily know if it's negative as much as it's just different, is that, most kids over there practice 2 days a week, an hour and 15 minutes, maybe 1 day a week, an hour. It's not that much.
Right.
And the sport goes all year long. With the exception of summertime, pretty much. 9-10 months of the year, they're playing basketball, and they're playing, scholastically, club, you name it. So, I was fortunate while I was there to coach our under 15 boys team at St. Mary's to the national championship game. And we lost to Belfast St. Malachy's. And, it was in the A level, which is the highest level of high school basketball in Ireland. And anytime you can get to a national championship game, I don't care where it is. That's a cool experience.
Right.
Yeah.
And do you see the game different than here? Is the game different?
Yeah. Yeah, it is. Well, obviously they're playing FIBA rules, and, they have the FIBA ball and the, wider lanes and longer 3-point lines and everything. But, the thing that's so different about it is, they play their scholastic games during, you might find this interesting, they play them during the school day. So like 12 noon, 1 o'clock, that's when they play their games. So kids are getting out of school, going to these games, playing games. The facilities are different. They're obviously, we are extremely well blessed here in the United States with facilities. And, my wife Candy and I, we went to a game during the school day to watch a regional game that St. Mary's played with a school out of Oranmore, which is, I was living in Galway when we were over there, just down the road. Or more. And the only people that weren't part of the crew at the table, the coaches, the players, and the officials that were in the stands were Candy and I, my wife and I. That's it. It was like going to a quarantine game.
Really?
And so, it was just, it's an adjustment, but it's not a bad thing. I think that it's just, I know for me, I gained a lot more patience, and I became a better coach. Because when you're thrown into an hour and 15 minutes practice, and you're not going to break down, you're going to break down the game into whole. But man, there are going to be smaller parts of each of those. You have no choice. So great opportunity.
Is soccer a big deal?
Soccer's huge over there. Well, soccer, rugby, and the Gaelic sports are really big, like hurling. And Gaelic football, handball, they're really big. And so they're kind of the king sports over there. Now, basketball itself is growing tremendously, and there's been a whole lot of adjustments and improvements within the game. And they love the sport. I mean, they really do. And they really, there's a huge masters scene, which you might find interesting. I can maybe talk with you offline about. But I played in a tournament over in Galway, the Galway Masters, back in November. It was an international masters tournament, over 40 and over 50.
Wow.
And it was awesome. Oh, yeah. And I flew back over and, did some work while I was there and played in the 2-day tournament. And I'll be going back more than likely this November for it again. And they have tons of masters tournaments all over Europe. It's a big deal. So, I mean, it's a more grassroots thing. And I would encourage anyone, that is interested in ever going to the most beautiful country on the planet, honest to goodness. Ireland has the most incredible people and the most beautiful scenery you'll ever see in your life. Plus, as an American, they really treat you with a ton of respect as a coach over there. I'm going back this summer. So I'm going back this summer working at camp.
That's my retirement plan. I'm hoping to get over there. Do some coaching.
Yeah, it's a great place.
Yeah, it's a great place. And yeah, McCormick is my mom's maiden name, so there's a bunch of bunch of Irish in me. So I got to go over to the motherland at some point. So we already kicked one of those. Let me skip down. Tell me your coaching philosophy.
Well, my biggest coaching philosophy is, as far as overall, comes from, I got a lot of my philosophy stuff really by, watching Coach Elder, watching Harry Sheehy at Williams, watching Steve Lammy. But my biggest thing is looking at it, trying to execute quickly and aggressively, handling the basketball, being very team-focused in our approach to everything. And, that's one thing. The other thing is just looking at it from an offensive perspective, again, handling the basketball, taking good shots, getting second shots, executing quickly and aggressively. And then defensively, no layups, no second shots, and contest every shot. So those are the philosophy things that I look at as a head coach. And when I'm working with, whether it's my Texas sharpshooter 7th graders or, working with the under 16 women's team in Ireland, really focusing on those things.
There's a lot of math that supports
and looking at it also.
There's a lot of math.
Well, tell me a little bit about that, though.
There's a lot of math. When you close out properly, and it doesn't matter whether it's one hand, two hands, if you close out, the shooting percentage drops about 8% on non-closed out shots versus closed out shots. It's crazy.
Yeah.
If you've ever read Basketball on a Napkin, I'm a math teacher, so that book's a little bit overwhelming for people that aren't. It's like Moneyball for basketball.
Right.
So, he's kind of broken it down into the 4 factors, but if you go into the math a little bit deeper, that, obviously there's some tweaks in there that are really important. Closing out is extremely important and very hard for young kids to do on a consistent basis. It's crazy. I have a problem with my
and that's Dean Oliver, right?
Yeah. It's good stuff.
And that's the other thing is the analytics side. Heck, we could go on and on about it. Like there's all sorts of things.
Yeah, the analytics, and it's changing. It's, I use crossover, there's huddle and stuff, but the amount of analytics I can get now that I could get, I grew up in the era where I had 2 VHS tapes and I was dubbing back and forth.
Yeah, me too.
And hand doing them. Now it goes up into the cloud and gets broken down for me in 12 hours, and I can look at it and send clips, and it's become cheap enough for even high school coaches to be able to do that. It's crazy. So go ahead.
No, you go ahead. I'm good.
All right. So let's go back to the questions. If you could talk to one coach for an hour, who would you talk to and why? Living or dead?
You know what? Honestly, I would John Wooden. I mean, that's a no-brainer. He is someone who, when I think about just the process and how he looked at the game, and he's the greatest teacher in the history of sports, honestly. So John Wooden.
Yeah, he's well run. That's probably 50% of the answers is Wooden. I put Stevens. I think Stevens is.
I was thinking him too. Yeah.
First of all, because he's alive, John
Yeah.
wouldn't.
Right.
But I think his mind, he just thinks the game differently than other people. I really do. I think he's,
Well, he's a D3 guy. He's a D3 guy, and he wasn't in coaching for a little bit.
Right.
I mean,
yeah.
So I think that's the thing.
He's outside the box a little bit. Do you have any superstitions?
Boy, that's a good question. I used to have one. I used to have a superstition. It's kind of a funny one, but I used to always have to have a Barks root beer under the bench.
Wow,
that was just something I always, I always did. And then one time in a game, I actually opened it up and the darn thing spilled all over me and on my nice suit. And I said, no more Barks root beer. So no, I haven't, I don't have it. Honestly, no.
Yeah.
No, I used to be really focused on, I always used to be like a perfectionist. I still am to an extent. I think we all kind of have to overcome that as coaches. But I would say that, no. Yeah, that was the only thing I ever had.
That's good. That's good. I mean, I have, you ask my players, I have tons of them. And I say it's not about the super. I don't believe if I don't do that, we're not going to win. I said it's about routine.
Yeah.
And that's the psychology part. I said, I always put my shoes on the same way when I was a college player. And it wasn't because if I didn't do it, we weren't going to win, but it was like my mind getting ready to play the game. It goes back to that free throw thing.
Absolutely.
It's not superstition, the routine. It's setting that mind in the, okay, it's game day. Like, I wear a suit on game day and I don't normally wear a suit to school. Well, that's telling me, okay, today's game day. You got to start getting ready.
Yeah.
Wow, those kind of things.
Yeah.
If you could only run one offense and one defense for an entire season, what would it be?
Well, offensively, you might just think you're going to laugh at this, perhaps. Flex.
Hey, I was a flex guy for a really long time. Really long time.
Yeah. I would modify the flex. Steve Lammy at Grove City, he's a guy who he's run flex the last 2 years, and he has modified it a little bit where there's not the down screen on the the flex screener. It's just basically the flex screener just comes up to the top and the other person just fills on the left side or right side, wherever. Probably flex, but also, and being a Wisconsin guy, I've always been a big swing fan.
Yeah, there's there's a hybrid there. If you can tweak those together, they complement each other very well. They really do.
Yeah, and then defensively, honestly, I would run the wedge line defense that I got from Steve Lammy at Grove City College. I run it now and have for years. It's similar to pack line. I would be more man-to-man oriented, although I changed. I learned point zone from Bill Elder at Mobile, and it was always really good to eliminate size advantages and things like that. But I would definitely do man-to-man defense and put a little bit of pressure on the passing lanes, but mostly defending one pass away, helping them recover, having good strong help, and utilizing hands and being physical, really physical.
What do you think's been the biggest change in basketball in the last 20 years?
I think the biggest thing has been the ball screens. I mean, if you really think about it,
yeah.
You look back. I mean, like honestly, you look back to like when I graduated college in 1993. No one did them.
Right.
I mean, you saw them in the NBA. But, Bill Eller wasn't running them at Mobile. We certainly weren't running them at Pillsbury, and we didn't run it. We did a little bit at Williams. But, it's so ball screen oriented now and so much more perimeter oriented. Back in those days, bigs were going in and pinning and sealing and getting, post position. Now you don't necessarily see those bigs doing that anymore. You see them facing up and being able to take threes, which is fine. I mean, it's kind of a European style now here. And, I'd say that probably be the biggest thing.
We jump them. We used to switch. We jump them hard now because the kids can't pass like they could 15 years ago either. So we jump those screens really hard, and that causes a lot of problems for teams, in my opinion. At least it does if you have really good rotation and those kids know exactly where to go. But I agree with you because kids, you're right. I mean, I think when everybody talks about like Golden State, for instance, and everybody talks about their skills and everything, it's their passing. I mean, they just pass the
crap out of the basketball. And I think because they do, it's not common.
Right. I agree. If you could change one thing about basketball, what would you change?
I would probably, gosh, that's a good question. I would probably, here in the United States, this might sound crazy. This isn't hard. Get a high school shot clock. There's a need for 50 states to have a high school shot clock. Over in Ireland and in FIBA, I'm coaching 12-year-olds and they've got a 24-second clock.
Right. It's coming.
So
it's coming. It's coming. That's coming. You know what I would do, and I haven't said this on any of the podcasts yet. What I would do is I'd move the basket up and then make the court bigger, because the bodies are bigger than they were, 30 years ago. So I would make it a little bit longer and a little bit wider. So I'd probably do a college court and I would make it wider and I'd move the basket up 6 inches.
Yeah, I like that. I think it's a great idea.
It would change the game. Like the three-pointer changed the game. These bodies are so big, even at the high school level. This year I started 6'8", 6'7", 6'6". That's just crazy for a high school team in Wisconsin. I mean, it is. It is. And I had like a 6'2" guard, and then I had a 5'10" guard, and the 5'10" guard looked tiny, and he's average. But their bodies are so big that it's that's the thing, is something's gonna have to change it will start at the NBA if they do it. I definitely think they should do it at the NBA. They should make that court bigger. The court's too small.
They do.
And move it up.
Yeah, I agree.
And move the rim up or something.
Well, and I agree with that. I also think that, the game, if you look back to, the beginning of shot clock era in college basketball was 45 seconds.
Right.
And, teams used to run, as much offense as they could in 45 seconds. And then when it went down, to where it is now, there's just been, I think that the game getting up and down a little bit more is certainly a European prerogative. I can tell you that much. And, much of the game now in the United States is very much going that direction. It's becoming more about spacing, more about, flow. And I kept hearing this. I'm going to get your take on this, Steve. I kept hearing this stuff about, in the national championship game, everybody getting upset about, it wasn't an entertaining game. There was no flow in the game. But, I mean, both teams are so great defensively.
Right.
I mean, the nights before, they were all shooting in the high 40s, low 50s. I mean, and then they shot poorly in the final game. They're talking about, well, it's because it's in a football stadium. But that makes – I mean, give me something I can chew on.
I think the whistle I don't think was super consistent in that game. So no. I always have a problem when it's not a consistent – either call the game tight or don't call it. Let the kids figure out what you're going to do. My only concern, going back to your shot clock at the high school level, is we went to halves this year in Wisconsin. So that was interesting rather than quarters. So we went to 18-minute halves, which was great for flow. And you end up playing more kids, definitely play more kids. My only concern is when I watch college basketball, a lot of the games seem very similar. The thing about high school basketball is as soon as we get that shot clock, they're all going to get this. They're all going to become kind of the same games. Right now, we have teams that are scoring 100. We have teams that are going to pull the ball out and delay it. I mean, what I think is unique about high school is you can zone, you can press, no one presses for 40 minutes in a college game anymore.
Yeah.
They all seem like first it was the NBA and they're all the same. Now it seems like the college game's moving that way. If we do that to the high school level, I don't know. Maybe it's just me getting old and being a purist, but it just seems like if you go watch 5 different high school games, they're all going to be a little bit different.
Yeah. Well, and I would say this too, with regard to, so many people, and for anyone that's listening, all the time everybody thinks that, the great coaches are at the college level or even the NBA level or whatever. And honestly, the best coaches I've ever been around are folks like Mike Lynch in Galway, Ireland, has been basically working for 20 years for free.
Right.
And he's a national team coach for the under 15s over there and a great friend of mine. Or other high school coaches here in the United States or middle school coaches. I mean, I was coaching in a game with my 7th grade kids here in Austin recently, and I went to a 1-3-1 trap, and I thought, well, we're going to take this coach. He doesn't know what he's doing. And then all of a sudden he goes to a dribble handoff and keeps the ball at the top. And I'm like, dude, I said, after the game, I went up to him. I'm like, man, that was a great move.
Right.
And I'm talking to a guy who's got a club team,
Right.
I mean, so I think too many people look at the level that you're at as being, well, more than such and such person. Just because they're not at the college level doesn't mean that they don't know what they're talking about. I mean, in fact, some of the greatest coaches I've met have been high school, middle school coaches, and I've learned a ton from.
I know, I would agree. All right, so we're gonna end here. We got about 10 minutes. We're gonna end with rapid fire. So I'm gonna ask you a question,
cool.
And then you're just gonna give me the first thing that pops in your head. Okay. All right. First one is, what's your favorite basketball?
Molten.
Molten. Oh, I haven't had one of those. That's a European ball, right?
FIBA ball. Yeah, I love them.
You know what I like about I was working a kid out, I don't know, a month ago or something, and he had one of those balls. And what I liked about it is I could tell his rotation easier. Because
absolutely.
It had that white kind of, I don't know, that yellow, I don't know, the stripe or whatever it is. So I could see his rotation on his shot much better from a longer distance than I can with a normal ball.
And they're great ball. They feel good too. I love them.
Yeah, I like the Rock. I like Spalding too, but
I have a couple of those in my house right now.
Yeah. All right. One word to describe your ideal player.
Oh, unselfish, fundamental. That's two.
That's
fundamental.
Two. Yeah, most people try to get two in. All right, fundamental. All right. If you could only go to one sporting event in the entire world, what would it be?
Oh, give me a couple more seconds here. I would probably go. Honestly, I would probably go at this point. I'd probably go to an All-Ireland hurling final after being over there. Yeah, that's what I would do.
So explain to the listeners
people,
what hurling is.
It is an ancient sport. I don't know if you know what it is, but hurling is basically like it's a combination. Go look it up on YouTube, anybody listening. But it's basically an ancient sport. Imagine a soccer pitch or rugby field,
right? And
having on each end a soccer goal with basically two goalposts above it. And each player, the field's about 125 yards in length, about 115 or so in width. I'm not completely perfect on those dimensions, but you have around 15 players. You have a keeper in each goal, and everyone has this stick. It's called a hurl, and it's basically it's a sharp-edged stick that is, imagine like a lacrosse stick, but without the net. And it's basically a flat-edged stick. And basically you play with a ball called a slither. And it's basically like it's like a baseball kind of ball that has raised seams, but it's not leather. It's kind of like a mesh kind of material.
And what's the ball called?
And they hit a slither. A slither.
Oh my God, it sounds like
and they hit it.
Potter. Okay, slither. Okay.
It is. It's very much like that, actually. But you basically hit the ball. You can hit the ball all over the field, and there's certain rules like where you can tap the ball to the next person, and you can run with the ball. If it's on the end of your stick, you can run with it as long as you want. And you can hit. If you hit the ball through the uprights, it's 1 point. If you get it through the net, it's 3. And it is the most remarkable. There are 85,000 fans at Croke Park in Dublin for the All Irelands in fall, and they televise it on television on TG4 over there in Ireland in Gaelic. They don't speak English in it, so it's just a remarkable thing. So yeah, go check it out. It's a very fast-paced sport.
Is it physical like rugby?
Yes. Yes, it's very physical. The only padding that you have is a helmet. And the ball, you can catch the ball. Imagine posting someone up in basketball, but having a 6'5" guy posting up in front of the goal in hurling and somebody hitting the ball 75 yards in the air at like 60 miles an hour and that person catching it barehanded. Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to have to
check it out on YouTube.
I'm going to have to YouTube this. All right.
Yeah, it's really fascinating.
That's crazy. I've not. Favorite pregame meal?
Oh, well, I have to give credit to Bill Elder here. We used to go to Shoney's. I'll take it back. Hamburger steak, green beans, a baked potato, and tea, not unsweetened.
Okay.
Yes.
I
And you
know
go
what
you got to
Shoney-
you go to the salad bar too.
Anybody that drives the interstates knows what a Shoney's is.
Yeah,
They're-
especially down south.
Yeah, they're everywhere. They are. Have you gone to national parks? No. So we're gonna take a side note for a second. Have you gone to national parks in an RV?
I have.
Have you gone to Yosemite
Yep.
in the RV?
No, outside,
Okay.
not the Yosemite. We've been to Glacier. We've been. We took the camper. We've taken it to 43 states. We left in 2010 from Denver. I'd worked as a special assistant to the head coach there, Eric Johnson, who's now at Boston College, and we bought the camper and the truck, and we decided to hit the road, and we took it to Alaska. We spent a month in Alaska. We took it up the Alaska Highway through British Columbia, Yukon Territory, and oh gosh, that makes Colorado look JV. I mean, it really does.
Oh my God, that's crazy. Because we're coming back from Yosemite, and these people are driving these RVs, and I'm going, "Oh my God, how are they doing this and not dying?"
Yes, it takes a special skill.
Oh
yeah, it takes a special skill. But yeah, so we've been to 43 states, 6 Canadian provinces in it, and and we've taken it all the way up to Maine. Spent a lot of time in Minnesota, of course, because that's where my wife's from originally, and yeah. So
I've been to all
it's a different life.
I've been to all but 2 states. I haven't been to Washington, and I haven't been to Alaska. It's only 2 states I've not stepped foot in.
Ironically enough, yeah, that's where we stayed. We stayed for a month in Anacortes, Washington, north of Seattle, and then went to Alaska. Yeah, we've been to all 50 states.
Oh, that's crazy. All right. So what's one thing you do to relax?
Oh, wow. You know what? If I'm listening, I'll listen to music. I'm a huge Pat Metheny fan, who's just a legendary guitarist. So I listen to him when I grade my papers online. I listen, Yanni's pretty good too.
Yeah.
So a lot of so I'm really big into music. Yeah.
I tell people the only reason I will stop teaching is grading, because it's like laundry. It never ends. It never ends.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I can, trust me. I'll be doing it after our phone call.
Right.
So.
No, it's always lingering. It's always lingering. I tell my students, if I hit the lottery, I'll keep teaching and I'll hire somebody to grade for me.
Yeah, no, I don't blame you.
Yeah. What best player you have seen in person?
Oh, gosh, that's a good question. I would say probably. Oh man. If I'm thinking about athletes, I wouldn't say basketball players, but Bo Jackson in the Senior Bowl in 1984 or whatever,
That's
85.
Good. That's okay.
But the best person I've ever talked to on the phone is Oscar Schmidt from Brazil. I recruited his son, Felipe, when I was the head coach at Hiram. Yeah, that was a very interesting 30, 40-minute phone call. Yeah.
Oh, I bet it was.
Holy hand. Yeah.
Who's the best player of all time? Best basketball player of all time?
Michael Jordan.
Okay, he's winning. He's got about 90% right now. I'm not sure it's not going to be LeBron by the time we're done, but yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that.
One thing that helped you become a better coach?
Getting out of my own way. Not being a perfectionist, being focused on the details, but not letting the details control me as a human being. The other thing that I would say, and I think it's really important for any coach to really think about this, and I don't care what kind of style you have, listen to your players. I mean, I think that's, even with my 7th graders, I will have my point guard during a game. I'll say, hey, come here. I have a set of triplets, the Larson triplets on my team right now. And I'll say, hey, Jack, come here. Hey, listen, I think we could run man-to-man right now. We could go back and go Indiana 1-3-1 trap. What do you think?
Right.
Coach, I think we should stick with man. I'm like, okay, great. Go do it and tell everybody to do it.
Right.
Like, if you listen to your players, they get more buy-in. We were talking about buy-in earlier in sports psychology and everything. Buy-in's important.
I'm telling you, and part of that is getting to be an older coach. I've won state titles. I've coached. Yeah. I mean, I've done everything I can do basically as far as a high school coach and blah, 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 whatever. But in my young days, I think I've had to prove to myself that I knew what I was doing. Right now, it's like I literally had my point guard. So during a timeout, I have my guys go to the bench, and then the coaching staff, there's about 5 of us, sit together and talk before I go and talk. this year, for the first time, I actually had my point guard stay in the coaching circle because I really wanted to hear what he had to say. Yeah, and it helps so much. It's the first time I've ever done it. But I've always gone into timeouts and go, okay, what do you guys think? Is that working? And then, I can read their faces, read their eyes. It's like you can kind of tell, I obviously have the veto, but I think the buy-in part's big of it because they have a voice. Everybody wants to have a voice.
And that's included in practice too, because you can read if a kid's had a rough day. I mean, I had my 7th graders the other day. They were dragging in their practice on a Tuesday night with me, and I said, "Hey, fellas, how long have you guys been going today?" I said, "Well, Coach, we got to school at 6 a.m. and we did a scrimmage with our, it was just a fun scrimmage with the 8th graders in the gym here." And so we've been going since 6, Coach. I'm like, "Well, gosh darn, why didn't you guys just tell me that? I mean, I wouldn't be all over you right now." I said, "Now I know that this is the way it is. I can change the way that I approach practice and kind of what we do." Because let's be honest, kids are going, that was the other thing about Ireland, man, kids would get to school at like 8 o'clock in the morning. Classes would start at 9, but they were in study time early. They were doing their classes all day. They'd have a practice afterwards and they'd have study time, and they'd be on a bus, city bus, going back home at 9 p.m. They'd be gone all day long. And, kids have so much pressure. We did too, but I think the pressures have changed quite a bit because of specialization, because of helicopter parenting. We could spend another hour talking about that. But
we could definitely talk about that. That's for an episode. We'll do that again. We'll come back and talk about that. So if you could, one word to describe your coaching style.
Excited. I'm very, very passionate. I mean, I really love the game because, listen, you're talking to a kid who grew up in a trailer house on food stamps, welfare, government cheese, and an alcoholic mother. And I'm seriously not writing country song here. It's the truth. And I grew up in Robertsdale, Alabama, and, right across the bay from Mobile, and, grew up poor. And honestly, the place that I went for solace, for protection, was the court.
Right.
And basketball always was something that meant so much to me because I tell people, Steve, that it saved my life, and it did.
Yeah.
And when I look at my life now, I live in an RV. I have a doctorate. I just got back from Ireland. I was a head college coach for 5 years.
And I teach life lessons to my kids in class every day, and we have life lessons. And I said, it's not about the things in life. It's about the experiences in life. And you've had enough experiences for 3 lives. If you've gone to all those.
Well, thank you.
No, but I mean, you have. If you've done all that traveling and seen things, there's people that I live in southern Wisconsin. There's kids that I teach that I see every day that haven't left a radius of 10 miles from their house.
Yeah.
So,
but I look at it though, from my standpoint. I mean, I'm the kid who shouldn't have got the chance to do that. And so that's why I'm so passionate about how I teach and so passionate about the game, because for me, it's a reverence thing.
Right.
For me.
Yeah. And everybody can have that opportunity. A little hard work goes a long way. Last one. Now, this is going to be a hard one for you, I bet.
I'm sure.
If you saw me right now, I got a bookshelf full of books behind me. But one book you would recommend?
Integrity by Henry Cloud. Okay. He is a Christian psychologist, Dr. Henry Cloud. He came up with a definition. Honestly, it saved it after I left Hiram College in 2006. I walked away from being a head coach. It changed the way that I looked at my life. It changed the way I looked at my career. Basically, he came up with a definition for integrity. And it's something that basically the integrity is meeting the demands of your reality. Meeting the demands of your reality. Yeah. And, for me, my reality was I wasn't going to be in coaching for a little bit. I had to meet the demands of what my reality was going to be, which ended up being, going into sales work. And, I was out of coaching for a couple of years, but, it changed who I was. It changed the way I looked at things. And then the second one, I have to give you this one.
Okay.
Because we all know who Ben Stein is,
right.
From Ferris Bueller's Day Off, Bueller.
Yeah.
He wrote a book called How Successful People Win. and it's about 100. It's perfect for coaches because it's like 110 pages long. Integrity is like 350, but he came up with this thing called Cowboy Logic, and he basically looked at it from how a cowboy would look at it. And when I was the head coach at Hiram and had a tough run there from 03 to 06, and I got bucked off the horse, you have to let it bleed. That's one of the concepts,
Right.
before you jump back on. And so those two books, yeah. I mean, we could always go through practice.
I didn't get the first job I applied for. I didn't get. I thought I was ready. It was shattering. I mean, all those experiences build to this, toolbox that you eventually have at the end, which I think is so important for growth as a person, as a human, as a teacher, as a parent, as a father, as a whatever. All those things kind of build that. Yeah. Well, thank you.
Well, for me, and I would say, I know. I appreciate you having me on.
I do. I really appreciate it. Well, we're going to do this again because we didn't even scratch the psychologist part, I don't think. But what I'm going to tell everybody right now is you'll email me all your contact stuff so people can get a hold of you, all those kind of things. A couple of those websites that you were talking about, if you can do that, that'd be great. And I will put that in the show notes for people and they can do it. So thanks, Tim.
No problem. I appreciate it. You guys have a good one.
Thank you. Hey, everybody, I really hope you enjoyed today's podcast as much as I did. If you did, please go down and subscribe and like. We would really appreciate that over here at Coach Unplugged. Couple favors I have to ask. I know you are probably in the same avenue that I am, that it's spring, and I'm starting to dig out all that coaching materials, all those things I have. Well, no need to do that. Go over to teachhoops.com for coaches who want to get better. It's the essential resource. It's got everything you need to become a better basketball coach. It's a 14-day free trial. You can go check it out. I will be your personal mentor. I will be there to help you and hold your hand through this process. So go over and check that out. And I'm really looking forward to next week. I'm going to leave a little tease there. We got some great podcasts coming up over the next 4 or 5 weeks. So I hope to hear from you soon. Bye-bye.